Hello and welcome to part 2 of What If Ahsoka Trained Starkiller Galen Marek instead of Darth Vader. In case you missed part 1 yesterday, Ahsoka was hunting down Vader, found him on Kashyyyk, but also found a young boy. Upon finding the young boy, she decided to abandon Vader, running away with him into their ship, and trained him over 15 years to be her apprentice to one day take down Vader. And in the end of the story, they battled Vader, almost destroyed him, but Vader escaped. But Galen and Ahsoka found plans with a map to the Death Star. So that's where we pick up today. Thanks for watching, and enjoy. Darth Vader was suspended in his medical capsule aboard the Death Star. He was getting the routine cleaning to make sure that he was healthy, but this time he had some serious repairs to do as well. His right arm had been chopped off by Ahsoka, and the suit needed a new one. This was now the third time getting his hand chopped off by an opponent, and it enraged Vader that he lost to Ahsoka and her apprentice. But Vader also saw an opportunity. He knew that the arm that he had lost had a map to the Death Star on it, and he knew the Jedi would be coming to him. Vader decided to hide this information from the Emperor when he arrived back on the space station. Darth Sidious had been most disappointed with the results of the assault on Dantooine. Many rebel transports escaped, and the two Jedi had nearly killed Vader. Typically, Vader would be more worried about failing the Emperor, but this time was different. He was more concerned with Ahsoka and her apprentice. Vader felt the darkness inside the young Galen Marek. Imperial records had found the name of him, and soon Vader would have him. It was his destiny to join the dark side and overthrow the Emperor, just like it was Anakin's destiny to overthrow the Jedi Order. When Vader was first put into the suit, he didn't have a reason to live, but he quickly realized that someday he would have his own apprentice and overthrow the Emperor. That was what he lived for, and that day was nearly here. Ahsoka and Galen had spent days preparing to head to the space station. There were rumors around the rebellion about this station, but now they had proof of it. Since their encounter with Vader, the two had discussed what happened and how to approach the next steps. The rebellion was not nearly ready for an attack on something of this size. It would get decimated without many more months of preparation, so they were going in alone, at least to start. But Ahsoka informed Bail Organa of their plan, and she said to have a fleet ready if they succeeded. If they were able to kill the Sith, the Empire's forces would be in great disarray. This would be the rebels' only chance to destroy the space station. This would allow them the chance they needed if the two could kill the Sith. The two had also discussed the fight and how Galen had given himself to the dark side to a point where he hurt Ahsoka. The two of them had developed a special bond over the years, one that Ahsoka compared to Anakin and Obi-Wan during the Clone Wars. They succeeded in most missions, with Galen often acting recklessly, but doing it well, while Ahsoka played the role of master. It is a dynamic that works, but against Vader, things had changed, and Ahsoka had taken time since the fight to train Galen to fight the darkness, as Ahsoka had learned to do. She taught Galen that the dark side may look stronger, but giving into it is what makes someone weak. It's power at the cost of everyone and everything that you love. And Galen had grown to love this rebellion, love his master, and hate everything the Empire stood for. And after some time, Ahsoka believed Galen was ready for another test against the dark side, so they took off for the Death Star with the map they had acquired. It was possible the Death Star had moved, but Ahsoka had a feeling they were expected. Darth Vader kneeled in front of Darth Sidious in the throne room aboard the Death Star, expecting a new mission, but instead, Sidious did what he always did. He outsmarted Vader. Your decision not to tell me about the rebel Jedi making their way to our station could have put everything we have built in jeopardy, Lord Vader. If they told their pathetic rebellion about this station, we will have to triple our efforts to get this super weapon ready. Vader knew better now than to lie to his master. Darth Sidious could read his intentions. I'm sorry, my master. My ambition got the best of me, Vader replied. And Sidious studied Vader and said, I see. You seek an apprentice, and you suspect Ahsoka Tano may turn? Vader hesitated before saying, "No, my lord. She must die. Her apprentice will turn once she does." Sidious walked towards the window, overlooking the vast expanse of space. All he said was, "Good," and Vader was dismissed until the time was right. Ahsoka and Galen had taken a crashed Imperial fighter from the battle on Dantooine and repaired it enough to fly to the Death Star. Once in sight, they were able to land by pretending their comms were down and getting inside to the hangar. Once inside, Galen, dressed in Imperial Stormtrooper armor, calmly made his way to an emergency hatch, and once Galen found the perfect spot to cause an alarm to go off, he force-pushed panels of the Death Star where it was weak, creating a hole and a vacuum that set off alarms. Everyone in the hangar went running, allowing for Ahsoka to get out of the Imperial fighter and into the back hallways with Galen. With her Lekkus, an Imperial armor disguise would just not quite cut it, so they had improvised. And now the two of them moved through the hallways, using the Force to guide them. The dark side of the Force was stronger here than anywhere they'd ever been before. Two Sith Lords, Master and Apprentice, were aboard this station, and they snuck through the huge station, discreetly killing stormtroopers when needed and picking up the pace as they could feel the dark presence continuing to grow. After a long time, they reached a large door, which had to be what they were looking for, but as soon as they did, a lightsaber ignition was heard behind them. Ahsoka and Galen turned at once, igniting their two lightsabers each. "I'll do what I should have done on Dantooine, Vader. Today will be your last," Galen said. Vader replied, saying, "Good. Let your hate guide you, my apprentice." And the three of them engaged in another duel, this time the three of them much more familiar with each other. Vader, surrounded by the dark side, waits for the Jedi to attack, and with swift and agile defense, he's able to parry every attack. His suit had limitations, but his immense power in the Force, along with his own tweaks, made it much better now. The dark side is his ally, and he takes the offensive, pushing Galen back, swiping with power at Ahsoka as she begins to fall backwards. Losing the fight, Ahsoka flips over Vader and joins back with Galen. The two of them coordinate their efforts, using the Force to enhance their strikes and momentarily overwhelm Vader, but the Sith Lord's dark power proves formidable, and he manages to momentarily separate them again, preparing them to fend for themselves. It is clear the plan from Vader is to separate the two, and this time he did it for good. With a Force push, he closes a blast door that puts Galen on the opposite side. Now, Vader and Ahsoka stand alone. In the dimly lit corridors of the Death Star, Ahsoka and Vader find themselves face to face once again, alone for the first time in forever. Their bond, once that of a devoted Jedi Padawan and her caring master, has been shattered by the dark side of the Force. Ahsoka's heart heavy with conflicted emotions as she fights against her former mentor, now a ruthless Sith Lord. As much as she wants to see Anakin again, she cannot allow herself to be swayed by the past. This fight is for the fate of the galaxy. The clash of lightsabers echoes through the corridor as they engage in a rapid exchange of strikes. Ahsoka's moves, fluid and agile, evoking memories of her training as Anakin's Padawan. However, she now possesses the experience and the wisdom of a skilled warrior in her own right. Suddenly, the blue lightsabers of Galen piercing the blast doors, desperately trying to get through to his master. Vader's attacks, calculated and relentless, driven by nothing but the dark side's power. Ahsoka's blocks, her parries, but the weight of their history weighing heavily on every movement. As they continue to battle, each strike resonates with a mix of sorrow, anger, and regret. They're both painfully aware of the past and the choices that have led them to this moment. Their connection remains strong, and for a fleeting moment, Ahsoka sees the eyes of Anakin as her lightsabers get close to the mask. She sees the turmoil within him, the struggle between the light and the dark. In a heart-wrenching moment of vulnerability, Ahsoka calls out to Anakin once more, saying, "There's still good in you, Anakin. I can feel it." Vader's response is a mix of anger and anguish. "It's too late for me, Ahsoka. You don't know the power of the dark side." But Ahsoka does not give up. Drawing upon their shared past and their bond, she presses on with her assault, never losing sight of her belief that redemption is possible for Vader. Their duel intensifies, their lightsabers becoming a blur of motion, each strike and parry charged with more emotion, and in a final act of desperation, Ahsoka launches herself at Vader, aiming to disarm him and end the battle, but Vader's raw power and experience overwhelming her. He gains the upper hand, catching her in midair, slamming her to the ground, disarming Ahsoka instead. As she lies on the floor, defenseless, she gazes up at the dark figure of Darth Vader, towering over her now. Ahsoka's eyes filled with sorrow, but also with a tiny bit of hope. She knows she can still try. In this brief moment, she reaches out with her hand one last time, not as a warrior, but as a friend, and pleads, "Anakin, please. The light is stronger than the dark." Vader hesitates, his conflicted emotions visible behind the mask, but ultimately, the pull of the dark side is too strong, and he lifts up his saber to kill her. But in this emotional moment, Vader forgot about Galen Merrick. Ahsoka had distracted Vader long enough. She tried to save Anakin, but it was no use, and as Vader began to swing down, two blue lightsabers ripped through his back. As Vader fell, the large door opened to reveal Emperor Palpatine. His loud cackle filled the halls, and he looked upon the scene. His apprentice, Darth Vader, was broken and defeated as Galen Merrick stood over him. He grabbed the weakened Ahsoka with the Force, lifting her up, engulfing her in lightning, then said to Starkiller, "Use your anger, strike him down once and for all, and take your rightful place at my side. It is your destiny." Galen backed away, looking from Ahsoka to Palpatine. Seconds felt like hours as he was forced to choose between the light and the dark. Kill Vader right now in cold blood to avenge his father and embrace the dark side, or save his master, who'd saved him back on Kashyyyk. Ahsoka saved him once, and now he would do the same for her. Calling upon all the power of the Force, Galen jumped in front of Ahsoka, catching the lightning in his hands. Using his full power, Galen approached the Emperor, the lightning between them getting stronger, until they came so close that an explosion sent them both flying backwards. But Galen was in control now. Palpatine stumbled backwards, looking up to see Galen charging right for him. Shooting lightning again, Galen flipped to the side and continued to charge. Another blast from Palpatine, and Galen countered by propelling off the wall and pushing the lightning back into Palpatine. The Sith Lord spun out of the way, shooting another lethal blast. Galen caught it with his lightsaber, then force-pushed Palpatine to the ground. Jumping into the air, Galen slammed the ground as he landed, throwing Palpatine into the air, and with the Sith Lord suspended, Galen used his full might to push him into the ceiling. Then, in a final move, he slammed the Sith Lord into the ground, where he flopped around, defeated. The Sith Lord used his strength to look at Galen and say, "Destroy me, and forever abandon your Jedi ways. Fulfill your destiny as a Sith." As Galen stepped back conflicted, Palpatine prepared another blast of lightning, but was caught off guard as a white blur flew by and decapitated him in one swoop. Galen looked over to see Ahsoka stumble her way to him and say, "I am no Jedi." She was burned, but very much alive, and she called for the rebel fleet to reinforce them and destroy this station. The entirety of the fleet had shown up. The Emperor, Darth Sidious, was dead. The two of them went to leave and got to Vader, who was on his last mechanical breaths. He removed his mask and looked at Ahsoka with his own two eyes once again. Vader had spent his whole life in the suit, looking for the perfect apprentice to kill Palpatine, and in the end, it was his apprentice from his time as Anakin that finished the job. He looked at her and said, "You're reckless, Ahsoka. You never would have made it as Obi-Wan's Padawan, but you made it as mine." And Anakin died there in the Death Star. Ahsoka remembered back to her first mission as Anakin's Padawan. He'd told her the same thing after that victory. Wiping away tears for her fallen master, her and Galen escaped together. The Rebel Alliance had found flaws in the not yet completed Death Star rather quickly. It still needed much time to be completed, and the Rebellion was able to take it by surprise. The Death Star far from ready for combat, and it exploded as the two warriors made their way into the stars. 5 years later, Ahsoka sits down in the outdoor meditation room in the new Jedi Temple on Dantooine. She sits next to an old friend, one that hadn't exactly aged as gracefully as Ahsoka. The twin sons were kind to very few, after all. As she watched Galen teach Luke Skywalker new Force abilities, she couldn't help but remember Obi-Wan teaching Anakin, while Anakin tried to teach her. Obi-Wan Kenobi thought the same thing while sitting next to Ahsoka today. They smiled at each other as the ghosts of Qui-Gon Jinn, Yoda, and Anakin Skywalker emerged to take in the scene. And that's where our story wraps up today. Let me know what you thought of it. The path I took, yeah, Anakin becomes a Force ghost. I couldn't help myself. I know. How does he do it? I don't know. Qui-Gon helped him. Anyways, thanks for watching. I hope you saw both parts. I hope you enjoyed both parts. I really had fun writing this one. I thought it went down a fun path. Maybe the Emperor died too easily, but, you know, it was Galen's destiny to kill him, as he said, so that's what we were going to do. And Ahsoka got the final kill in the end, so let me know what you thought. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.